44 days in, let's get unbothered about it. Take your alligator.
Everything bothers him.
He's unbothered.
He calls it unbothered, but that's what's cute because everything bothers him. He's bothered. I'm a botherina.
Before we get started, please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. What's up, everybody? Ty Rivera here, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world. In case anybody is wondering, Bijou is currently enjoying a Whimzees Alligator. Whimzees Alligators, the never-to-be sponsor of Unbothered by Ty Rivera, but we still give them a shout-out. And you can find my Amazon affiliates link for Whimzees Alligators down below in the description box. Whimzees Alligators, they will not kill your dog. Well, they should not kill your dog. They haven't killed my dog in 7.5 years. That's all I got to say about it. And yes, it is time for another episode of Unbothered by Ty Rivera. That's right, it's Unbothered by Ty Rivera. 44 days in is what we're at. People have been asking about my sobriety and if I'm sticking to it. We were 44 days in, and I told you guys I was sticking to it this time. I made up my mind, and I feel like I'd be letting too many people down. Yes, it's about me. It is about me, and that's the most important thing. It always has to be about you. And I get called a narcissist for saying that. You know, I would to be honest with you guys. We talked about the fact that, okay, let me start here first. I am doing this one just audio because my hair is messed up, and I've decided that once a week for Unbothered, since it's an hour long, and I hate just sitting in the same spot for 1 hour, you know, to record, because if you see me, I always record in the same spot, and I have my ring light, and I have to make sure my hair is done. Right now, my hair looks crappy, and I'm fine with that. I'm going to do it again tomorrow, obviously. It's like 3 a.m. right now, so I'm not worried about the way I look. And the other thing is, I like to just lay down on the couch. That's the best kind of unbothered for me, and maybe that's because it's like therapy. I've never been to therapy before. I know, big surprise, right? But I've never been to therapy before. So I think laying on the couch makes me feel more relaxed. Maybe that's why therapists have people do it, is because it puts you in that relaxed state. But just sitting on the couch and pouring out my heart is the way I do Unbothered. So if you're new around here, this is Unbothered by Ty Rivera. Usually the theme is I start off talking about something that bothers me, and then I talk about it until I'm unbothered. Until I've reached the state of unbothered. But right now, I don't I told you guys I'm going to keep things light. I'm going to keep things fun. And I just want to be a refuge for people. And yeah, like yesterday, I was talking about Armie Hammer and his deal. If you guys haven't seen that on my YouTube yet, I went into talking about that. But to me, that's not deep at all. That's more like just talking about annoying little internet stuff, and it's gossipy. And I feel like people like that. And it's a break from people talking about politics, because right now I'm not on Facebook. I've got 1 day left on my 30-day suspension that Facebook put me on. And it's been a welcome vacation, I'm going to tell you that. There have been things that have been a little annoying, like some shows that I wanted to promote and that kind of stuff. But really, overall, it's been a very good experience having 30 days away from Facebook, and especially during this time when everybody's arguing about everything, and I'm seeing so many of my friends post so many extreme things on both sides of the aisle. And I'm just not an extreme guy, and I've learned to accept that about myself, and not in a I've given up on the world kind of way or defeated kind of way at all. It's just the world doesn't work for me like it works for a lot of people. And I don't say that in a bad way at all. Technically, I'm very blessed to live the kind of life that I live. In a lot of cases, people leave me alone about things that I say, and I don't have to play by the same rules a lot of people do when it comes to a lot of things. And I'm just going to start appreciating that, because where I get in trouble is I try to help other people out. And I know that we're supposed to want to help other people out at all times, but I just don't see how that's beneficial to me personally. Anytime I try to help everybody out, everybody either calls me stupid or says that I don't understand. And I always feel like, what don't I understand? Being a human being? Because a lot of the people that I talk to, a lot of people that I try to help out are white. And if you listen to a lot of them tell it, the ones that get mad at me, because here's the way it works out with me and white people. When I talk about white people, I'm usually the opposite of the way a lot of people are. Because a lot of people of color, when they talk about white people, they usually mean right-wing, Republican, that kind of white people. That's usually who they're talking about. And so with me, when I say white people, I'm usually talking about white liberals because I hang out and interact with a fair amount of white liberals. But most of my actual support and my fan base comes from the right. And I know people would think that's the opposite because people on the right, Republicans, however you want to say it, sometimes libertarians get this rap for like they don't want to help out people of color and they're racist, and you hear all of these things. But in my experience, those are the people that have helped me out the most. And it's not because they're giving me money. I'm doing the quotes when I say giving me money. It really is the kind of thing where they respect the fact that I offer a service. I am a comedian. And whether I do that in person or I do that through my YouTube or here on Unbothered, however I'm doing it, people respect the fact that I actually give them a reprieve from everything else, and I'm not constantly coming down on them like most LGBT people of color would like to. And I don't really understand why anybody always wants to come down on anybody. Yes, sometimes white liberals do get on my nerves. Liberals in general will sometimes get on my nerves, and I don't have a side. Really, I know that I should be a liberal just because of all the things that they supposedly stand for. But then when you really see how it works in practice, you see that it's a lot of people just trying to monetize their struggle or whatever it is that makes them different. And to me, I also, quote unquote, monetize my struggle and what it is I do. But I do it in a fun way. I try to steer away from being a victim because being a victim never got me anywhere. And that's just what it is for me. I know a lot of these kids now write blogs and do stuff like that to make money. And that's how they monetize their quote unquote struggle. But for me, the best way for me to monetize my struggle is by telling people how I've been able to navigate the world, how I've been able to make people that are supposed to quote unquote hate me, love me, and want to help me out in life, want to see me get ahead. Because whether you realize it or not, everything you do for me helps me. If you buy a ticket for a comedy show, that helps me. If you come out to a free comedy show, that helps me. If you buy a drink at a comedy show, that helps me. If you watch my YouTube video, that helps me. Everything that you do for me, whether you're liberal, right-wing, libertarian, Republican, however you want to say it, left-wing, leftist, whatever you are, if you're listening, watching, supporting what I do in any way, you are helping me out. And so I am thankful for that, and I try to be something different and something positive, even though a lot of people will see me as negative. But for me, I've always said that I'm sort of like a human Rorschach test. Like, that's the way I see myself. Like, what you see in me says more about you than it does about me. Because I'll tell you, as me, a lot of what people project onto me when they're arguing with me, when they're mad at me, when they're trying to tell people what's so terrible about me is completely off the mark. It just is. And I wouldn't care otherwise. I joke and say that I'm trash all the time, or I'm an asshole, or I'm a garbage human, or that kind of stuff, because I don't care, and I've heard that so much in my life, and it doesn't bother me. And it's not the kind of thing where I'm saying it doesn't bother me, but really, secretly, I cry about it. I really don't care. What people think of me does not define the person that I actually am. And that's what I always remind myself. Because sometimes it does get to be a bit much when you have people saying these things over and over and over about you and creating this narrative, which I know a lot of people don't get that either. But when it comes to my presence on the internet and what I've been throughout the last 5-6 years, for some people, they have built up these legends about me and these stories that they assign to me, and this is the way he feels, and this is what he thinks, and he's this kind of person. And usually it's completely not what I am. One of the big ones people will say about me is you read comments and people will be like, this guy clearly needs a hug. This guy clearly doesn't get along with his family, this kind of stuff. And I'm like, I'm great with my family. And if you saw how many hugs I get, that's one of the reasons that I was kind of depressed at the beginning of COVID, because I never paid attention to the fact. I mean, like, I knew that a lot of it happened, but I never paid attention to the fact that so many people hug me when I go out. And whether that's the handshake into the bro hug that a lot of the straight guys do, or just a straight up hug that a lot of people give me, people just come in with the hug. And that's one of the things when it comes to social distance and stuff like that. Yeah, I get it. And I'll respect a lot of it. And if you are that kind of person and you would rather not get close to me, or that everybody keep their distance, me included, I'm fine with that too, and I'll respect that too, and I take no offense to that at all. But I do feel like if people want to hug me, unless I get some kind of bad vibe off of you, you're getting that hug. You can get your hug right here. And people that know me actually know that. So when people make it seem like I'm such a callous person and I have no feeling, and just because I do say certain things that I know where they get it. I'm not going to pretend that I don't know what it is I say and what it is I put out there and how that can be taken literally. But for me, a lot of the things that I say that sound the most callous are actually meant with the most love. And I have people dispute that too. Like, he says this, but really and it's like, you don't know me. Why don't you actually get to know me? That's the difference between me and the people that think they hate me, is I'm fine to get to know anybody. I will meet you. When people talk about me online, which this has happened quite a bit, and a lot of people have witnessed this. There are people that talk about me online and they'll say these things about me, having no idea what kind of person I am. And I will meet them in real life. And rather than confronting them, unless they've done something really terrible or really backhanded, when I meet them, rather than confronting them, I will just pretend like I'm meeting them for the first time. Because really, I am meeting them for the first time. I know what their online personality is, but I don't know the actual person that they are. And that's something that I'm always willing to accept with people, because like that even happens in the reverse, where people are super positive. Like sometimes you meet people online and you just know their online personality, and online they're super outgoing and they're super sweet, or they're super sassy and they say all sorts of funny stuff and off the wall or off color things. And then you meet them in real life and they're the most quiet, meek, chill people ever. And I'm not saying that's anything bad, but sometimes it does throw you off a little bit, because you're like, you're so different from the way you are online. And that's what I remember with the negative people too, is a lot of these people that have really strong personalities and will call you a dog and whatever else, definitely worse than a dog, but I just use that expression. But, they'll talk about you like you're just trash. And they'll even be super aggressive online in a lot of cases. And then you meet them and they're quiet and meek and definitely not giving you that energy. And I try to remember that. So I usually just keep an open mind, an open heart, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to just meet this person for the first time right now. I do take a breath, because there is a part of me sometimes, because I do have that kind of personality when I want to. And that's something people have seen too, there is a part of me that sometimes wants to walk right up to them and be like, yeah, you talk a lot of shit online. Where's that personality now? And I have done that a few times. And it didn't feel good, because I'm just not meant to be a bully. I don't like that energy. And I've discussed that before. Like when I was younger, I was bullied. I have a stronger personality now just because of what I've lived through in general, not just the bullying when I was younger, but in general, I've just had to live through a lot. And I'm not trying to make it seem like I've had it so much worse than anybody else, but I definitely have had my share. And life has kicked me more than most people would probably realize, in a lot of situations where most people haven't had to deal with that kind of thing, just in being gay and Latino from where I'm from and growing up in the time that I grew up and now making it to here, yeah, it would seem like I probably had it easy street just because I'm brown and gay, which now is almost like currency. But when I was younger, it definitely wasn't. Those were considered two strikes. And I never made an effort to mask my sexuality, sexual orientation once I came out of the closet. And that was when I was 17. So when I came out of the closet, I no longer ever tried to not be what I was. There were times where I would just not mention it because I didn't think it mattered for the conversation. You're just in regular life, going to school, not high school. This was when the little bit of college that I did. But when I was doing the different stuff that I was doing, in a lot of cases, it was like, these people don't need to know anything about me because we don't have that kind of relationship. And so, I wouldn't just go out of my way to mention it. And things weren't like they are now where people are wearing rainbow stickers or, rainbow shirts, socks, that kind of stuff all the time. Things weren't like that when I was younger. So I wasn't seeking that out. I wasn't that guy. So I was pretty chill about everything. But I never tried to hide it. And so I've been out the entire time. And when you make no effort to mask it, that's one thing that I've done jokes about more recently. There was a time that I got kicked out of Denny's. I got kicked out of a Denny's. I literally got asked to leave a Denny's by a Denny's manager. And I do a joke about it now that's really good. But I got asked to leave, and the exact reason that I was told, the quote was that you're gay, you make no effort to mask it, and you're making other guests uncomfortable. So I was asked to leave, and yeah, I was very angry about it, and I thought about driving. At the time, I drove a Jeep Grand Cherokee, and I thought about driving that through the wall of the Denny's, but I was like, let me be smarter than that. Not to mention I had been drinking, and the last thing I needed was a DUI. I don't drink and drive anymore, but when I was younger, I definitely did drink and drive. And this was long ago enough that if we're being 100% honest, everybody was drinking and driving. Don't drink and drive, ladies and gentlemen. But at the same time, if you were around at those times, there was a time where even telling people you were buzzed was the way you would get out of not having your keys taken away from you or your friends tell you not to drive. And that's why they ended up making that campaign, buzz driving is drunk driving, because that used to be all of our excuse to get our keys back or to not have our friends judge us for driving home. They'd be like, you shouldn't be driving, you're drunk. And you'd be like, I'm buzzed. And they'd be like, all right, well, get home safe. Take the side roads. Get your ass home, And like that's the way it really was. It sounds like I'm being silly or I'm joking, but that really was legit the way it was. And there was no Uber, there was no Lyft. Those things are relatively new. Taxis were super expensive at the time, so very few people took taxis, which really didn't make sense because DUIs were more expensive than taxis. But you were usually betting on the fact that you weren't going to get a DUI, so you would just hit it home. And so, I was in that position where I literally got told that. I've been discriminated a lot in my life. I've been the victim of a hate crime. I just don't ever look at myself as a victim. There was a time where that finally hit me, where I was like, oh, I got jumped in that bar because I was gay. That was a hate crime, technically. I just thought of it as getting jumped in a bar. I knew something had happened. I knew that I had been assaulted or I had been jumped. But I really didn't put it together as being a hate crime because to me, that was just a part of life. Sometimes when you're gay, and it's almost like if you bought into you're asking for it thinking, that really was the way I felt. I knew when I chose to come out that my life was going to be harder. And that's one of the reasons that a lot of parents didn't want their kids to be gay. It wasn't necessarily about homophobia, and that's something I've learned to understand now, is that a lot of parents didn't want you to be gay, not because they were judging you in that way, but because they knew that your life was going to be so much harder. And now, who knew that we'd progress to the point that we're at now, where gay people can get married, everybody's completely cool with gay. There were plenty of people that were cool with me being gay, but I always knew that there was a chance that they were going to shun me or they were going to judge me, even if they didn't openly do it. And I had that happen quite a bit, too. That's how I learned to be more selective about who I allowed into my life was because I had people that I thought were close to me where I had told them and I had been like, just because my thing has always been, and this even applies to on stage even now. Sometimes I'm a little bit more loose with it now when people introduce me as the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world, which does happen. If you've been anywhere I've been performing and people watch my podcast or pay attention to my podcast, the other comedians, they'll introduce me that way. And when they do it, usually that would get on my nerves because I feel like, let me always be the one to tell people that I'm gay. And I've always felt that way in personal situations and in professional situations. Let me be the person that tells them, because if I tell them, they're going to take it one way. If you tell them, they're going to put up all their walls of what they think gay or LGBT is, and so I'm going to have that projected onto me. And some people would say, but you look gay, or people can tell you're gay. And I feel like, yeah, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. I'm not trying to deny that. There are some people that think the opposite. There are some people that think that I'm straight acting or would never know that I'm gay if I didn't tell them I was gay. And that's something I've heard quite a bit, and it shocks the hell out of me when people say that. And that's just me being 100% honest on the way I feel about that. I'm always like, how does everybody just not know? I feel like such a flaming queen all the time. And I know I'm not what you would truly call a flaming queen, but because I know my thoughts and I know what it is I feel like everybody else should just know too. And I forget that not everybody is thinking on that wavelength, or even some people don't even care about that. So they're not thinking it at all. So they just assume everybody's straight or what they perceive as quote unquote normal. And some people have a problem with the term normal. Some people get very offended by that. It's usually people in the LGBT or, non-binary. Like these people, a lot of times, now not all, because I met some very cool non-binary people. Like I talked about Ariel, Isaac Norman, and they are non-binary and very, very open-minded, very logical and great. So with Ariel, I feel like like that's a person that really does get it when it comes to accepting. But Ariel is also from Texas. So when you are from a more conservative, and yeah, Ariel, I believe, is from Austin. That's where we met, was Austin, or that's where they were when I met them, was in Austin. And then like that too, I know I'm using the they and the them, and that's something I've told people about myself. Like if you come to me like some sort of asshole and you think you're going to tell me what it is I'm going to say and how it is I'm going to, how I'm going to talk or express myself, I'll get like, yeah, you sit down, and then I'll make it a point not to do anything you want because you told me. But if you politely ask me, or if we have a talk about it and I ask you and you just share with me and you say, this is what I'd actually prefer. And I had mentioned this before with Ariel. I mentioned them on a couple episodes back. And I at first used gendered pronouns, which would be the she and the her. That's what I used because I didn't know. And I was like, I don't know how Ariel identifies or what pronouns that they want used. And then I get a message from Ariel on Instagram because they listen to my podcast. And they're like, well, I prefer the they and the them, but I don't care. It's not a big deal for me if somebody says she and her. I'm just non-binary and I prefer people know that. And, I believe they said they don't conform to gender norms. I think that's the way they put it. And let me not be putting words in people's mouths because I have different conversations with different people. But I do believe that they said something to that effect. And so I will make it a point to commit to memory they and them and make that a part of my regular routine when it comes to Ariel. But I will not have people yell at me or tell me what it is I'm supposed to think. And I know some people get mad because they feel like I'll get straight people sometimes that are like, It's either a he and a him or a her and a she. And I'm just like, yeah, and I get if that's the way you want to live. But I personally have gotten so used to different people wanting to express themselves in different ways or people identifying in different ways that if you're a good person, I'm going to make it a point to make the adjustment and be what it is you would like, or not be what it is you would like for me to be, but address you the way that you would like to be addressed. Because to me, that's not really a big thing and it's not worth having a fight over. But the idea of me for a lot of people is that I'm just this mean person all the time that doesn't want to respect people, and that's not the point of me. That's not what I do. It's like in stand-up, because people perceive me as an edgy comedian, a lot of times the comics that will be hired to work with me when I'm at a comedy club will see what it is I do, because sometimes the first day they're not really familiar with my stand-up, and that's not something that offends me or something that I care about. But they will not be familiar with what I do, and then they'll see me go up and they'll be like, wow, you push a lot of boundaries. And then they'll suddenly start trying to do their most offensive stuff, and I feel like, why don't you just be you? You don't have to try to be this thing because you think you're going to impress me, or like just start saying things that are not politically correct because you think that that's what I'm doing. Everything I do when it comes to stand up in that way, yes, the purpose of it is to be funny, but there are definitely things that I'm trying to say through my stand up that not only am I making funny, but it's also using those particular words to paint a very particular picture and to eventually get to a particular point. With a lot of the stuff that I'm doing, it's already says exactly what I want it to say, but it says it in a funny way. Then there's a few things that I say just because they're funny, like they're just silly things to say. Then there's a couple things where I can admit that I haven't fully formed I've formed the idea and I know where I want to go with it, but I don't know exactly how it is I'm going to get there from where I am right now. All I know is if I keep working on it from where I'm at, I will figure it out. It will come to me either on stage or it will come to me when I'm thinking about it in the car. But for me, the most important thing to do is the repetition of it, because the repetition of it and paying attention to my audience will make it so I will figure out where it is or how it is I'm going to get to where it is I want to be. But a lot of people don't get that. I had somebody mad at me because I made a video a couple days ago, and I think it was called They Stormed the Capitol. I think that was the title. Look at it on YouTube if you get a chance. Because in it, I talk about, I say that that's one of the last times that I'm going to be talking about that kind of stuff, but I just felt like since everybody has followed my road as far as politics has gone for the last 5 years and knows that I voted for Donald Trump and I'm very supportive of Donald Trump, since people know that, and I know that that's not a popular thing to say right now, and people don't get that it's not really about Donald Trump at this point, and it really hasn't ever been specifically about Donald Trump. But my thing has always been, I don't argue with people about this. People have argued with me, and I will explain why it is I feel the way that I feel in public forums like Facebook or Twitter or stuff like that. But most people have learned to leave me alone because my thinking on that is very sound, and it's in a lot of cases opposite of what people would think that would be too, which has always been a thing for me, and not for any other reason, but just I see things in a different way, and I see a different path sometimes than other people do. And sometimes when I tell people the way I see things, I don't at all expect them to just drop what they're doing and suddenly do what it is I do or think the way it is I think. I will sometimes just be thinking in my head like, okay, this is kind of a shortcut that I can see, or this is something I can see that maybe not everybody can see. But that's always been a thing for me. And some people could say that I'm wrong because some of these theories have been untested, but that's only because nobody wants to relax and let me do them, or, you know, relax and go along with them, or trust me to that degree when it comes to, okay, if we just try this course of action, then I think that we can get to here. But, you know, I don't need everybody to be just completely submissive to what it is I want, but I do need people to at least chill out for a second and just kind of let things unfold and see if they go. But a lot of people can't do that because people don't have that patience. Instead, people want to be angry. Like when it comes to Joe Biden, obviously he was not my choice. I just said I voted for Donald Trump. But to see Joe Biden fail would be to see the president of the United States fail, which in a sense would also be seeing the United States fail. And to me, my personal preference isn't more important than the entire United States. And that's why I'll wear a mask when I have to wear a mask, because I know that a lot of places are staying open. So I could be a Karen and yell and try to make this point about I shouldn't have to wear a mask, and these are the reasons that I shouldn't have to wear a mask. And I'll vent sometimes and say that I don't like the mask and I don't think that it's helpful. And I don't see anything wrong with me saying that. Sometimes people get so mad at me saying that. And I'm saying I'm not trying to start a campaign that everybody rip off their mask. Do I wish everybody would rip off their mask? I really do. But at the same time, I understand that people feel that the mask is important, and experts have said that the mask is important, but also experts have said that the mask isn't helping. Different experts have had different ideas, and that's the way science and medicine have always worked. So I don't know why people see that as such a inflammatory statement. And I do say inflammatory statement because when you say it, people yell at you and they act like you're trying to kill people or you're trying to endanger people or you don't care about people. And I'm just saying, this is the way I feel like things would work, or this is the way I feel. I'm not saying that this is necessarily what we should do right now. If, you know, the majority of people feel better with the mask, or it's been decided that we have to wear the mask to keep things open, then I'm going to do what I have to do and I'm going to wear the mask because we are trying to keep things open. And I don't have to know people to want to see them do well when it comes to servers, bartenders. My friends growing up, like all through my, you know, young adulthood and to this point right here, a lot of my friends have been in the service industry. And those are the people that are getting hit the hardest. Friends at the grocery store. I have friends at the grocery store. That's another thing. And those people need to be able to keep their jobs. So whatever it is that I have to do so that these places are open, not only for my purposes, you know, so I can go to the gym, so I can go to the grocery store, so I can go to the mall, not only for that, but also so that these people can work and be able to make money, just all the way around. It's better if I put aside my personal preference and just say, okay, this is what it is we have to do. This is the plan that we're going with. Fine, I'll do it. You know, when it comes to, like I said, Biden, yeah, not my choice. But at the same time, am I going to pull that same not my president stuff that people were pulling for the last 4 years? Well, that's different because Donald Trump is dangerous. There's plenty of people that think Joe Biden is dangerous. That's what it is. That's a fact. Whether you like that or not, whether or not you think it's a conspiracy, there are people that think that. But I'm going to go along with the program. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt because this is what the country has decided. This is what the majority of voters have decided. And then there's the people that say that, you know, there was fraud and that kind of stuff. And honestly, I see what they're talking about. Like there were certain things that do look a little fishy, and I don't think there's anything wrong with calling that out. Do I think that anybody needed to storm the Capitol? Most definitely not, and I will go on record as saying that. Did I think that all of that needed to go down like that? No, I didn't. But I also haven't thought that a lot of the Black Lives Matter things have had to get to the point that they've gotten to. I'm just against that level. Protesting, I'm fine with. Everybody has the right to protest. That is the most American thing ever, is protesting. But when it comes to rioting, I'm not really down with rioting. I realize that it happens sometimes. I stay my ass inside. That's what I do. Like when I was in LA, MacArthur Park area, because it's so Latino, when they were mad at Donald Trump, they were marching the streets. And I was 100% fine with that. You go ahead and march. I will be inside here because I know those things don't always turn out the best. And whether it's Antifa and I've been honest about that too. Like Antifa, just to me, that's the most destructive group right now. Because when it comes to Antifa, they are for chaos. They are for anarchy. And that's just what it is. So when you have those people, to me, those people are probably the most destructive because they don't really have a point. They just want everything to go in every direction. And I kind of get them too, to a certain degree, but I think that in a lot of cases they muddy the waters and they make it hard for people to accomplish the things that they want to accomplish, which most people are kind of logical. When you see people online, yeah, you see the worst of everybody online. And you see the worst of everybody out in the streets in a lot of cases in those situations, because those are the personalities that stick out the most, is the most extreme. Whether it's online or on the street, in a lot of cases, it's the most extreme that stick out. Excuse me. So when you see that, a lot of times people think, oh, this is what the protests were about. The truth is, when it comes to the riots at the Capitol, there were plenty of people that stayed away from all that were there to protest, that were peaceful. And just like when people talk about the Black Lives Matter protests and people are like, it was complete anarchy. And it's like, no, most of those people too have the right intentions. They're just there to protest. And then you get a couple of crazies, be they Antifa, be they people that happen to look like the people that are marching, whether that's black people for the Black Lives Matter or white people for the protests. You know, yes, there are those extreme personalities that tend to drive the narrative at a point. The only thing I wish is that on both sides, people would begin to really pay attention to that and give each other the benefit of the doubt. The same way when Black Lives Matter people are like, most of us weren't doing that kind of stuff. Most of us weren't breaking things. Most of us were peacefully protesting. That same way that they know that that's the reality of what was happening at their protest, I wish they would give the same benefit of the doubt to a lot of the white people that were at and I say white, but there's a mix of people, whether the media wants to acknowledge it or not. There are a mix of people that have been supporting Donald Trump or are Republicans. And so I wish they would give them that same benefit of the doubt and be like, yes, there were the few bad people or however many bad people there were that tried to take over the Capitol, but then there were plenty of good people that were just minding their business and doing the things. And then there's the people that just get caught up in the moment and they're easily influenced. And it's unfortunate, but that's a lot of what's in this country, is a lot of people that just want to go with the crowd and do what's popular. You see that all the time. I see people all over Facebook saying what they think is going to make them popular, saying what they think is going to make people like them. And that's why a lot of people get mad at me, because I will say things that are against the quote unquote narrative that I'm supposed to be going with. Now, whether that's going against something that's supposed to be like a Latino cause or going against something that's supposed to be a Donald Trump thing, because I've let it be known that there were different times that I was disappointed in him. And as a Trump supporter, there were plenty of times where I felt like, will you put down the goddamn Twitter and just stop saying stupid shit for a minute so you can actually do what it is we need you to do? Can you please do that? Can you stop being a child for a few minutes? Can you stop acting like a teenager on fucking social media right now? Why is it you have as much time to be on social media as I do? I know what my life's like, and I know what the president's life should be like, and you should not be able to dedicate the same amount. You should not be more prolific on social media than I am as the president of the United States. And that's something I've also expressed when it comes to other politicians, like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is another one that I feel like that with. AOC, let's just say. That name is a lot to work with. I'm Latino, and that name is a lot to work with. But whatever. AOC is just what we're going to say. And I've heard that I guess she thinks it's now disrespectful that people call her AOC, but you're AOC, bitch, and that's just what it's going to be. And if you have a problem with me calling you AOC and think that's disrespectful, remember I also called you bitch too. And I also want to know, if you have a problem with anything I'm saying, why you have time to listen to Unbothered and why you're paying attention to me. You've got reading to do, which I've already said before, but I stand by it with all of them. All of them have so much time on their hands to be doing TV appearances and all the places we see them. No, I need your nose buried in paperwork. That's what I need from you. You beg to be elected, all of you. And this isn't just AOC I'm talking to right now. All of them beg to be in office because really they wanted the prestige. People don't want to change things. Even Bernie, I don't really trust like that. You know, even though Tulsi Gabbard is one person I trust like that. Maybe she wouldn't have been right to be president. Maybe people would be right on that, and people could make a strong argument for that. See, that's another thing I'm always willing to accept, is people could make strong arguments for these things. When people would even say things about Donald Trump and why he wasn't necessarily the best, like, that's something I was always open to. That's why a lot of people had trouble really debating me on these things, because I would always be like, yeah, I can see what you're saying, and you're right about that. I would always admit that I can see what it is you're saying and why it is you would think that. I just happen to think this way. Then people would get mad at me and call me stupid, and that's where we would really get into it. And then they would make the mistake of thinking that I was defending Donald Trump. I wasn't defending Donald Trump at that point. At the point that you called me stupid, then it became about me defending my right to think the way that I think and not be called names over it. That's what it was about. So sometimes people would be like, he's just adamant about supporting Trump. No, I'm adamant about my right to vote the way I want to vote, which we all should be able to vote the way, because I've always seen it as, and I know mathematically this isn't the same or they'd never be a winner, but it makes me feel better and it causes me less strife throughout my day, less worry if I think of it like this. You say you're voting for the opposite person of who I'm voting for. Well, my vote canceled out your vote, and your vote canceled out my vote. And so, like I said, throughout the day, if you talk to several people that are voting the opposite of the way you're voting, then mathematically, you know that technically that's not the way it works, because your vote just canceled out the first person you talked to about that during the day. Now you're up to 5 people that think the opposite of you. So, you've only canceled out one of them. So there's still 4 that, they're still 4 ahead. But for me, I don't care. I'll just keep transferring it in my head from one person next. Okay, my vote just canceled out your vote. What's that? Okay, my vote just canceled out your vote. And then I don't worry about it. And I don't feel like we have to be in an adversarial position, because there's no reason for us to be in an adversarial position as fellow Americans. That's just not something. I don't want to see this country fail, because I love it here, and because I've been other places, and I know that, yes, Australia is lovely, and the people there are beautiful, and it's very similar to the way the United States works as far as, the way people treat each other, the way people conduct each other, all the way down to the Aborigines getting mistreated by white people until just recently. Like, it's very similar. The problems that they have, where a lot of people here think Mexicans are taking the jobs. In Australia, a lot of times it's the Filipinos that they think are taking their jobs. The Filipinos are their versions of the Mexicans as far as the people that they consider a threat in that same sort of way. So, but at the end of the day, And I do mean at the end of the day, because, you think about everything at the end of the day when you're in another country, because you're like, this is great when you wake up in the morning. And maybe that's where the expression at the end of the day comes from, because a lot of times when you're in another country, you wake up in the morning, you just flew in or whatever, maybe you got a night's rest, and you're like, this place is so amazing. And then you notice the differences, not only in culture, but laws and the way that they do things, and they just bother you who knows, some people move to different places, so they obviously love it wherever. But I always feel at the end of the day, literally, like the United States is the best place in the world, and there's no place that I'd rather be. That's the way I feel about it. Yeah, we've got problems. We've got a lot to work through. We've got a lot to figure out. We've got to learn how to be better with each other. We've got to learn how to be more respectful with each other. All together as a society, both sides need to learn how to do that, because that's another thing I've always been willing to admit. Yes, there are people on the right that are racist, abusive, whatever, however you want to put it. There's also the left's version of that too, that are very closed-minded. They just think that they're not closed-minded because they're open-minded to other things. But I run up against those people all the time where I'm like, I don't know why you're so extreme. I also don't know why you're shouting at me when you're white and liberal and constantly talking about how you stand up for people of color. You don't stand up for people of color. You stand up for people of color that think the way that you think that they're supposed to think. That's why when you run across a person of color like me that doesn't just say yes to everything it is you think, you feel like it's all right to yell at me. You feel like it's all right to say things that are racist to me. That was the Candace Owens situation. Now, whether anybody likes Candace Owens or not, me, when it comes to Candace Owens, I like that she's a great speaker. Me and the East Coast bestie, Renee, talk about her all the time. Again, happy belated birthday, Renee. But it's Renee's birthday all week, so I probably won't talk to her till Thursday or Friday. Whenever I talk to her, it'll be her birthday. I'll say happy birthday. Renee is my actual friend, if you don't know that. And me and Renee talk about Candace Owens quite a bit. And so, just because Candace Owens is always saying something. And Renee also, to a different degree, or maybe not even to a different degree, maybe it's just because she is more left-leaning and Democrat. So I don't consider myself a Republican, but obviously by the things I've said, voting for Trump and a lot of the things that I've seen traveling the country, you could say that I'm more right-leaning, and that wouldn't be a lie at all. I'm definitely not a Republican, which I have people thrust on me all the time. I've had people say, I figured it out. I know why you're Republican. And I'm like, I'm not Republican. But I do think Renee identifies as a Democrat. I don't think we've ever really asked each other like that, or I've never asked her outright like that. I guess I'll have to ask her. To me, we're good enough friends that I don't need to even have a real answer to that. I'll ask just so I know the next time I talk about this. But for me, I feel like I know enough of her thinking that I know that she's left leaning, and I also know that she is open-minded enough that we can have very civil discussions. And every once in a while she gets on my nerves because the other day she got on my nerves, and she knows it because I got a little bit snippy, and I wasn't a complete asshole about it, but it was just she was telling me you've got to admit Donald Trump is an asshole and he said a lot. And I was like, okay, but I've admitted that. I've admitted that several times. If you heard, I admitted it earlier in the podcast when I said that, I wish he would put down the Twitter and I wish he would stop acting that you heard me the way I went on that thing. So I've always been willing to admit that. But it's my thing, and this was right before I recorded that video that I did, the one they stormed the Capitol. My thing was yeah, I admit that, but that's the most unproductive thing in the world, to admit that and leave it there. If we're going somewhere with that, I'm fine with admitting that, because that's admitting to a definite part of the problem. But to not say that Nancy Pelosi has been in the way, that Chuck Schumer has been in the way, that Ted Cruz has been in the way, that Mitch McConnell has been in the way. To blame it all on one person is letting a lot of people off the hook on both sides that definitely need to be on the hook in order for us to solve these problems. because the things that the citizens are dealing with, to me, are much more important than these politicians playing these he said, she said games and, kind of treating each other like the scapegoat and passing the buck is what they're doing. They're constantly passing the buck. So how about we nail everybody to the floor and just be like, okay, this is where you're fucking up, all of you. So let's get this straight. None of you need any kind of job security. And if we have to change the system, then let's figure out what we have to do to change the system. But for me, it really is about that. It's about not just blaming one person, because blaming one person, one, is too easy, and two, does not solve the problem. So I said this all on this video, and that was the point of the video, was me saying I think that everybody should get together and we take it to our legislators and be like, yeah, this is the way you're all messing up. That's what I felt like. I even said that I think Black Lives Matter and the people that stormed the Capitol should have got together and peacefully protested and said, yeah, we're all pissed off. So if we're all pissed off on both sides and we're willing to come together over this because we see these problems, we really need you to pay attention. We really need you to pay attention, because clearly it's important enough that people that are supposed to hate each other and are complete opposites are willing to drop their differences for one day, even if it's just for one day, to let you know how displeased we are with the way everything has been. And so, and so me and Renee went through it that way, but me and Renee will always go through it once in a while just because we are friends, and we do. When you are the most honest with people, then of course every once in a while you're going to find a difference of opinion. But like I said, I've always tried to work past even my own triggers. So even though sometimes I'll get a little annoyed with something Renee will say, or she'll get a little bit, because I know also she gets annoyed with, it's not like I'm perfect and I don't get on her nerves. I could tell even when she said that with the Donald Trump thing, and I don't think it was frustration with me, because these are conversations we've had before, but I think she has frustrations with the right that she was kind of taking out on me, and I don't mind that every once in a while because we're friends. Like if it were an abusive situation and it was like she was talking to me like I was a piece of shit or whatever, but that's not the way we deal with each other. We don't talk to each other. We don't talk down to each other. So I didn't feel it that way. But yeah, there was a little bit of nerves frayed because everything's going to shit in the country, or looks like it's going to shit in the country. Really, I feel like this is like that thinking that I have where sometimes you have to sometimes you have to completely fall apart to build yourself back up. Like it's just the way it works. And I feel like that's what the country's going through right now. And yeah, maybe we need to come up with a different way of doing things altogether. And that's something I'd be open to as well. I'm not a person who thinks that we should necessarily have to stick to every part. I mean, that's why, there have been different amendments and different things that have happened just as far as us having to grow as a country. Do I think that we need to maybe do away with a little more of the way that the Constitution works or the original principles? In certain cases, yeah, or some of the ideas, like, when it comes to the way judges are. And I know people get mad when you say that kind of stuff, but like a lot of that stuff, politicians, term limits, yeah, like there's certain things that we need to change in order for this country to grow the way, or in my opinion, in order for this country to grow the way that it needs to grow. Now, somebody could come along and speak some logical sense to me and say, this is why that wouldn't be the best idea. When it comes to term limits, I think that's something that we definitely need to figure out. But also, I'm not above listening to somebody that's logical, that talks to me in a respectful way. But, anyway, my point was, on this video, there's this guy, his name's Cordell, and I know him from LA. We used to always perform at this open mic together. And he hits me on the, in the comments of my YouTube video, which I don't mind people having opposing viewpoints in my YouTube video, but it's exactly what I just said throughout the video that I didn't think was the most productive. He's just trying to blame Donald Trump. And, I'm just not going to do that with you. I'm not. Like, yeah, everybody, let's do it. If you want to throw in, yeah, you're right, Donald Trump is, he has his problems, but then there's also this and that, and you want to throw me, a paragraph like that, great, let's do it. I'd love to hear your opinions. But when you just want to take out your Donald Trump frustration on me because I didn't just say he was the devil. Instead, I decided to add a little bit of this is the way I see it and this is the reason I think like that's unacceptable to you. Okay, well, I don't think anybody, even with like you consider like a Ted Bundy or a Jeffrey Dahmer, somebody like that that's done terrible, terrible things. I don't think anybody is all good or all bad. Because if you talk to certain people, there were certain people that thought they were good people, that thought they were friends, and those people saw a good side of them. Some people, even as evil as they may seem, have a good side to them. Some people, evil people, have been really good to pets before. And yeah, they may have been horrible to human beings, but the one good part of them was the part of them that interacts with pets or that owns a pet. So I don't feel like anybody, no matter how bad you think they are, is just evil, or no matter how great you are, is just good. Even good people have bad parts too. You know, like I could say there are certain people that I'm like, that person is practically a saint to me. And then somebody else could be like, yeah, they yelled at me today in traffic. And I'd be like, well, maybe traffic is where the bad side of them comes out. I had one friend like that. She was from New York. And she was such a chill, cool girl. But then she would get behind the wheel of a car and she'd be like, shuck it. And literally saying things like that and sounding like that. Like, fuck you. You know, and like that wasn't even her regular voice. But just when she would drive, this maniac would come out of her. And so when I give that example, maybe subconsciously, that's where that was coming from, because I remember her being like that and me just being like, I hate being in the car with this person. Because I'm not going to lie, every once in a while I get a little angry in traffic. Once in a while. I'm not a person who's constantly road raging on any level. I feel like I get there when I get there. I learned that from my dad. You know, he's always like, chill. He always would tell me, and still does tell me, if I'm on my way to dinner or something like that, and he's like, you know, we're at the restaurant already, and I'll be like, all right, I'm on my way right now, and he'll be like, don't kill yourself getting here. There's no hurry. We'll be here when you get here. And he's always reminded me of that. So that's so far ingrained in me that I really don't feel like I have to rush a lot of places. Sometimes I feel like people are stupid because they'll create dangerous situations in places where it's like, that didn't have to be a dangerous situation at all. But also because of the way that I run my life and I run my schedule, I really don't even react to that in a lot of cases, because I feel like, all right, I see this person is stupid, so let me slow all the way down so that they can pull this stupid move that they insist is the smartest thing in the world. And I don't know why they're doing this, but okay, do it. Once in a while, I'll get mad when people do something stupid enough, like block driveway. Like you can, technically, it wouldn't hurt you to just stay back 5 or 6 feet so that I could move my car through this little bit of space and get over to the left turn lane. You've got a red light anyway. You guys have all seen that happen. And it's like, for some reason, you're just stopping my progress and the progress of anybody behind me because you think that by letting me go through in a way that is not even the direction that you're going in, I'm not adding anything to your time at all. But you think that stopping me from getting to where it is I'm going is somehow going to get you where you're going faster. And that's just not the way things work. And sometimes, I'm even getting better about that, though. I just will, and you know, some people would probably say that my mindset isn't the nicest about it, because I do think in my head, okay, this person's clearly dumb. So let me just have patience with the fact that they're dumb. And there are always going to be dumb people in the world. But it provides me with a level of zen. It really does make me feel like, okay, it's not a big deal for me. It doesn't have to be a big deal. It doesn't have to be something I yell about. I don't have to honk, anything like that. I had a lady yell at me yesterday, and she wasn't even in the crosswalk. And I didn't see her because she was in dark clothes. And that's really what it was. It was nighttime, and she was in dark clothes. And my vision hasn't gotten bad. You know, like when it comes to up close things, I'm going to tell you guys, I finally need glasses for that. Like, you know, to read things like small things. But a person walking in the crosswalk isn't at all something that I'm not going to see, or, I don't have blurred vision, none of that. Like, I don't need those kind of glasses. I think I'm farsighted. I think that's what it would be, or I'm getting farsighted, because whatever I have is just, like I said, reading the little writing on a shampoo bottle. That's the level that I'm at. Like, that kind of stuff is starting to turn into a thing. And I think it's from the exposure of the computer. For the longest time, I haven't needed anything. My vision was better than 20/20. No exaggeration, because I used to get color contacts. And they, do your prescription. They were just like, wow, your vision is great. And so just the smallest amount of deterioration in my vision. But this woman was wearing all black, and this corner intersection is particularly dark. And so I didn't see her. She was a white woman. So, no joke there as far as like, oh, were they black? Blah, 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 blah. You hacks. Anyway, she was a white woman, a big white woman, but I hadn't seen her because of the dark clothes. And so I went ahead and went to make the left turn. And then she, wasn't, like I said, wasn't even in the crosswalk. It's not like I even got close to hitting her. Technically, she was still sidewalk. And all of a sudden she's like, fuck you, and just starts flipping me off. And she's standing, right next to where the crosswalk starts. And in my head, I was just like, what's this bitch so angry about? Like, I don't know why people are so angry when it comes to everything. Like I said, this guy Cordell, he comes after me in the comments with that stuff that is unproductive to me. And I was like, I just did a whole video about how I'm not about this. Like, and I voted for Obama twice. Well, why do you think Obama would be my whatever? And I'm like, I'm not saying Obama was your thing. I'm saying that that's the last president that I voted for, and I voted for him twice, and I didn't feel like he was the greatest either. Like, I just don't feel like we're getting the change we need from people. And so for me, Donald Trump was something different and a definite change. And some people would say, well, that change was dangerous. All right, well, you think that. Okay, I get it. I know that because he did. Oh, well, shut up. You don't know anything, really. You're as stupid as I am. When it comes down to it, that's what I get tired of with people, is everybody wants to talk to me like they're a fucking authority on something. And I feel like, yeah, my thinking could definitely be flawed. I 100% admit that. That doesn't mean you're the smartest person in the fucking world. Technically, the way that you should look at it is, yeah, my thinking might be flawed too. How about we talk to each other with some respect and see if between the two of us idiots, we can maybe figure something out. How about we do that? You're stupid, I'm stupid. Let's see if we can put our two fucking little brains together and maybe figure something out. Is that hard to make that little bit of compromise? No, actually, I read all the time and I know, bitch, you don't know shit. You know what? Your husband's cheating on you. Nobody even wants to fuck you. You don't know shit. You might be good at certain things. I'm better at others. So shut the fuck up for a minute. Sorry to get upset, but sometimes I do want to read people like that, and sometimes I do. Like if you ever pay attention every once in a while, I'll be like, yeah, you know what? You're fucking fat. So you might know certain things, but you don't know calories in versus calories out, and that's the easiest equation in the fucking world. Well, I have a thyroid problem. Oh, is that what they call it? Is that what you're frying up as thyroids? I didn't know you could eat thyroids. And I shouldn't be this mean, but sometimes I just get like this, And it's not meant to be particularly hateful, but Jesus Christ. It's just like, can we not compromise? Can we not ever just say... So anyway, Cordell, goes on this thing, and then he's like, maybe your peers, making it seem like, because he was lumping me in with everybody else, every person that voted for Trump, including the people that stormed the Capitol, which I've been very clear about the fact. I never even started saying like, those people are right, or they have a point, like I think everybody has a reason to be at least a little angry in this country with the way you see things working right now with COVID. Whatever side you're on as far as mask, COVID, whatever, any of that goes, the way that we're not getting taken care of in a lot of cases, yeah, I think that that's something that we all should be at least a little bit upset about. And I wouldn't ever try to deny that. But should we be storming the Capitol? No, we should not. Should it turn into complete chaos? I don't think so. Do people need to start running out in the streets with their guns? I still say no. So yeah, I definitely do think that was going too far. So don't lump me in with them, because I've never apologized for them or been an apologist or whatever it is you're going to throw at me, And so to call them my peers, you and your peers, my peers are comedians. And that's what I told him, because I know him from open mics and technically he doesn't do anything now. And that's not me being insulting, but just a doctor's a doctor and a nurse is a nurse. So this motherfucker tried to say whatever about my peers. And I was like, oh, my peers are stand-up comics. Like, that's who I talk to. That's who gets me, is actual stand-up comics. My peers, how dare you? And I did say my peers, how dare you, in the comment. And I was like, you definitely would not be one of my peers anyway, because you don't do stand-up and you don't even go to open mics. You don't do anything to do with stand-up. And I've said this before. I respect open micers better than I respect people that thought they did something in comedy. And this guy didn't do anything in comedy. And technically I liked him as long as he kept his mouth shut, because he was never an issue in actual comedy. He was never that good. He was never like working anywhere or doing anything other than some open mics. And yeah, I respect you because, I would see you at open mics or whatever, but I haven't seen you in years now. And you weren't even particularly good back then. So why is it let's be honest. Why is it you're talking to me like you're my equal right now? Not even my equal, my superior. Because you can be my equal as far as just we're both human beings. Okay, we're equals on that. But when you're trying to talk down to me and tell me whatever you're... So I read him real quick. And I was still somewhat polite about it. Just a fact is a fact. If you're not... You're either a comedian or you're not. You're either out doing stuff, even if it's open mic, like I said, or you're not. And he is not. So don't try to come at me like you're my superior, because when it comes down to it, I don't pretend to be a political pundit. I don't pretend to be a politician. I don't pretend to even be the most well-versed in politics. I'm just a person that has some opinions just like everybody else. But when it comes down to it, what I am and what I'm good at is stand-up comedy, comedy in general. That's what I am. I'm good at entertaining people. So when it comes to that, you're not going to talk down to me in any way. And I don't even know why you're on my post at this point. So I put that in a polite, it was polite because I didn't cuss or anything like that. And I wasn't particularly, it wasn't like, to me, unproductive. It was just breaking it down, letting you know why I don't necessarily look at you as any kind of superior, and I don't need to interact this much with you. Like, a lot of times when people leave a comment or whatever and it's like negative or, setting the record straight or letting me know what I'm supposed to know, whatever it is these people call themselves doing, when they do that, I feel like, okay, well, I heard you in one comment, and so I'll respond to you, and then we can be done with that. But these people want to go on and on. I want, excuse me. I want me to really, just humor them all day. And I don't want to do that on Facebook. I don't want to do that on YouTube. I don't want to do that anywhere. I record a video so you can hear me with tone and inflection and everything else. And hopefully you get it. And if you don't get it, you ask a couple questions. But I'm not going to read your dissertation. And that's what because this is what happened. So I read him real quick and I told him, I was very clear with him, we're done with this conversation. That's how I ended that comment. And I was like, if you can't accept that, I can just block you. But we're done with this conversation now. And like I said, it was because for me, it's the unproductive part. I'm not doing that with you. So it is what it is. If you don't like that about me, that every once in a while I decide I'm done with something and I can agree to disagree, then you don't like me. Stop listening to my podcast. Don't listen to my opinions. They're bad for you. I don't care. But like I personally get to that point with people, especially on social media, because in a lot of cases, once they've dug in and then I know what I'm like too, it's like we're not going to go anywhere. So let's just leave each other alone. And so that's the way I wanted to leave it. And I told him, like, we can just be done with this. If it's too much for you to accept, I can block you. So I go to sleep for like 4 or 5 hours because I didn't get to sleep till noon. I had recorded my video last night. I really am proud of that video. It's the Army Hammer one. If you guys get a chance, watch it. Just because I put in the, text messages or the DMs with him and the quote unquote victims. I gave plenty of like anecdotes. I was fun, and I like the way that one came out. That one is definitely a for me, and when people really pay attention to it, I think people will really enjoy it. But that one was definitely one that I was proud of. But it did take a while. Like putting all that stuff in may seem like just a little thing to you guys, but it's a lot more than you would expect. I have to pull it and I have to load it to my computer, like the pictures, and then I have to put them where they have to be, and it's a editing process, and I do enjoy that part, even though it is actual work. But also, if I can't do stand-up like I need to be doing stand-up or would like to be doing stand-up, then I'm going to work on my YouTube. That's something I've told you guys that I'm going to do, is I'm going to work on that. So I've been getting better and better and putting out more and more content. And every once in a while I have to take a couple days off, just because like when I was on the road and I don't have all my stuff with me, and I don't want to put out stuff that like I'm not feeling, where I feel like this isn't good, quote unquote, product. When I'm feeling like that, I'm like, okay, these days I'm just going to have to cut myself some slack. But, when I put in full effort, and then I'm tired already. So, I've been up all night doing that stuff. And last night I was doing shows. I'm at LA Comedy Club all this week, from Monday to Sunday. So if you guys get a chance, if you're in Vegas this weekend, you can see me. This is the week of, what is it? January 10th through 17th, I'm here at the LA Comedy Club. So if you're listening to this after that, you asked out. No, hit me up and see if I'm doing anything anywhere. But, so I was tired by that time. So I go to sleep from noon to like 5. I woke up around 3 to go to the bathroom, and I always check my messages and see what's going on. And there's a message from Cordell, or a comment from Cordell. And I'm like, I thought I already told him that we were done with that. And if I needed to, I would just block him. And so I swipe it to check it out. And I'm not kidding you guys. This was like 7 or 8 actual paragraphs on a YouTube comment. 7 or 8 actual How much do you think I care about your fucking opinion? And I just went ahead and deleted it. Because I was half awake, because I was going to go to sleep for a couple hours. Like I said, I woke up, I think it was like 3 or 2:30 or something like that. And I was like, yeah, I'd like to say I'm going to wake up now, but 2.5 hours sleep right now just isn't going to do it for me. I'm too tired. So I went ahead and went back to sleep. When I woke up, I saw that, and I was like, that's ridiculous. And so I just hit the delete on it. I didn't even read it. I didn't even read the first couple words. I just read his name, and I saw the length of that, and I hit the see more so that I could like see exactly how big it expanded. And I was like, Jesus Christ. So I just went in and put another message or another comment. I didn't obey my word that I'm going to block him, because I've known him for a lot of years, and really I'd prefer not to have to block him. I wouldn't mind having his opinion on other things, and I wouldn't even mind his opinion on that if he had just gone into something productive, if he hadn't been trying to blame me or take out whatever. I'm not your wife. Stop trying to take things out on me. I have so many people try to do that online, and it's like, I don't know you like that. Yeah, I hung out at a couple open mics with you or whatever, but we never spent a lot of time together. We were never actual friends, and I wouldn't be in that position anyway. Even if I did know you, I don't let people just take their shit out on me. Anybody that knows me knows that that's not what I do. Again, it's people that don't know you try to force you into being these things. And so I tell him, like, look, I didn't even read your comment, so please, let's just leave this alone. And then he leaves one more comment where he says that he knows that I read the comment because I'm a narcissist. And it's like, again, with somebody calling me a narcissist. And I think that they think that that's supposed to be offensive because that's something that people say about Donald Trump. And I don't even know that gets under his skin. I don't think he's ever addressed that or been like, let it be known he's particularly sensitive about that. I don't really think he is, but I think they think that insult to him, because you always hear that about Donald Trump, that he's a narcissist. And like, I've had people like try to put that on me, like tell me I'm a narcissist so much. And it's like, anybody who thinks that doesn't know anything about me or know anything about narcissism. So, like, I don't get offended even a little bit. I just am like, why is that the thing you think that's gonna bother me or get on my nerves? It's definitely not. And so I was like, no, narcissistic is expecting somebody to actually care about reading your comment that's that long. That's narcissism. I mean, like, what makes you fucking think I care about that much about your ideas? Why don't you create something, make your own video? And maybe if you hit me with the link and you're like, here's a video of me explaining what it is I thought. But as far as you being lazy like that and just expecting me to read that, no, I'm not doing that. So, I went ahead and was very clear with him this time. I was like, the next step is just blocking you. I deleted your comment. I'm not joking anymore. I wasn't joking to begin with, when I said that I was, but, I mean, like, I'm really putting my foot down. This part is done. Like, just let it go. Come back on another one. Live to fight another day. Like, why do people feel like their opinions are so pressing? That's what's narcissism to me. The fact that people feel like their opinions are so pressing to other people that they haven't seen in years and weren't particularly close with in the first place. It's like, why would I care that much about what you think? You're not my best friend. You ain't my mama. But yeah, so that's what it is. I just want you guys to know that that's where I'm at. And I feel like I found something to be bothered about. But at the same time, I feel like, again, if you take this one the way it's meant, it really is just me running through the way that I feel about things. And we'll do this once a week still on Unbothered. How about we keep it that way? On Unbothered, I'll keep with the tradition of talking about the things that bother me until I'm not bothered anymore. And if you guys don't like that, then don't tune into Unbothered. And I don't mean that in a shitty way at all. Still continue to watch the daily videos, because on the daily videos, I'll do, just fun topics, whatever. Every once in a while, I'm sure there'll still be politics or whatever, but I'll try to keep it fun and I'll try to keep it at least somewhat light for you guys. But then when it comes to Unbothered, I'll talk about what bothers me until it doesn't bother me anymore, until I'm unbothered. And I'll also do these just sound only, so I can get this chill mode that I feel like is what's most beneficial to the Unbothered brand. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Let me know what you think down below in the comments. Whichever way you're watching me, whether it's on, or listening to me, whether it's on YouTube or on SoundCloud or iTunes. Is it iTunes anymore? I don't think so. I think it's Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, wherever you're listening to me. Leave a comment, leave some stars. Let people know, give it a thumbs up. Let people know that you love me, that you pay attention to me, that you disagree with me even. Just not 7 paragraphs of disagree. Feel free to disagree in a couple sentences. How about we make that compromise? But Unbothered will be Unbothered, and the daily videos will be the daily videos. If you don't like hearing me get unbothered, go through the process, then you don't have to, and I'm not going to hold that against you. I don't even ask people anyway. I'm not like, do you listen to Unbothered? I'm not that guy. I have a life. I don't know why people don't get that. I have a life. I said it almost like I was reminding myself. Anyway, this has been Ty Rivera, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world.